Welcome to another episode of Doors of the Universe podcast. Today's episode is going to be another throwback episode. This one, again, is from the We Don't Talk Politics podcast, a podcast I used to be a part of. We have since disbanded. But this episode is from the second episode we did on that podcast, and it was on a name you might have heard before. And since it's been brought back up in the news recently, I thought it would be good for everybody to be able to see it, or I guess not see it, just hear it. This is, again, not going to be a video episode because at that time we weren't doing video episodes, so I'm just going to add audio to that one just so we can get caught up. But yeah, Slenderman. That is what this episode is going to be about. Back on November 24th, so I re-listened to the episode. I thought we went more into detail in the episode about the three girls that went in the woods and one of them stabbed one of the other ones. But we just kind of did a top level talk about it. So I want to do a recap because in November, Morgan Geyser was brought back up into the news. She had been in a group home and had an ankle monitor, and then she cut off her ankle monitor, and they did catch her about 100 miles away from her. It was 24 hours later. She was 100 miles away from the group home, and she was in Illinois with an acquaintance. So I figured we'd do a little recap about what all happened there, because, like I said, I'm sure some people may have heard the name Slenderman, but don't know who he is, what he is, and just might not know the full background story behind it. So I figured, because until we did that episode, knew very little about Slenderman as well. So the fact that this got brought back up in the news seems like a good time to bring it out. While this is a We Don't Talk Politics episode, this is definitely something I would have covered on this podcast had we not already done an episode on it on the We Don't Talk, because there's a lot of good episodes on We Don't Talk Politics. It's still out there. It's still online. You can access it and listen to episodes. But when the time is right, when it seems like a good choice, I'll usually just do a reissuing, I guess, of the podcast on this podcast. Let's talk more about Morgan Geyser. What we can start from the beginning. So this goes back to May of 2014. We originally released the episode in 2020. So let's start from the top of May of 2014. So Peyton Leutner had gone to Morgan Geyser's home for a slumber party to celebrate her birthday. When she woke up the next morning, Leutner said Geyser and Anissa Ware were downstairs at a computer when she joined them for donuts before heading to the park. They told her the plan was to play hide and seek and asked her to lie down under the leaves and sticks as part of the game, she said. There in the woods, Geyser repeatedly stabbed her with a kitchen knife, and she and Weir left her alone in the woods, bleeding and struggling to get help. After Leutner crawled out of the woods, a passing bicyclist found her and called 911. Leutner was stabbed near the heart, and she was 1 millimeter away from certain death, court documents said. When the bicyclist found her, the girl pleaded, "Please help me, I've been stabbed." Audio from the 911 call revealed. Summer 2015, CNN affiliate WISN reported Geyser was diagnosed with schizophrenia a few months after the attack. And then we jump to August 2017. Anissa Weir, then 16, pleaded guilty to attempted second-degree homicide due to mental illness or defect as part of a similar plea agreement stipulating she would accept commitment to institutional care. October of 2017, Geyser, then 15, entered a guilty plea to a charge of attempted first-degree murder. As part of the deal, under Wisconsin law, Geyser avoided further jail time and would be committed to a mental institution. It's a confusing thing to describe because clearly she committed an offense, but the law doesn't treat her as responsible for that crime because of her mental illness, Anthony Cotton, Geyser's attorney, explained to CNN at the time. In the end, Cotton said Geyser would not be considered to have a criminal record. December of 2017, a Wisconsin judge ordered Weir be committed to a state mental care for 25 years. February of 2018, Geyser was sentenced to 40 years in a mental institution instead of serving jail time, according to a judge's order. Jump forward to September of 2021. Weir was granted release from a mental health facility on the condition she lived with her father and wear a GPS monitor. Early 2025, in January, a judge ordered Geyser could be released from the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, where she spent nearly 7 years. The prosecutors attempted to block her release, alleging she had been quietly reading gory novels and communicating with a man who collects memorabilia from murderers. However, a Waukesha County Circuit Judge later ordered her to be conditionally released to a group home after state and county officials completed a community supervision and housing plan. Sunday, November 23, 2025, police in Madison, Wisconsin announced they were searching for Geyser, who was last seen in a residential neighborhood on the west side of the city around 8 p.m. on Saturday with an adult acquaintance. She had disappeared Saturday night after cutting off her monitoring bracelet, police said. Authorities later said in an update they received confirmation around 10:34 p.m. Geyser had been taken into custody in Posen, Illinois. The pair traveled from Wisconsin by bus, Posen police said. On Sunday, officers in Posen responded to a report of people loitering behind a truck stop building and discovered a man and woman sleeping on the sidewalk, police said. Geyser initially gave officers a false name when they confronted her, according to Posen police. After continued attempts to identify her, she finally stated that she didn't want to tell officers who she was because she had done something really bad and suggested that officers could just Google her name, police said. Monday, November 24th, Charlie Mecca, the person with Geyser at the time of her apprehension, told CNN affiliate WKOW Monday more about their friendship and why Geyser left her group home. Mecca said they had met in church and gradually became friends. Permission was granted for Mecca to visit Geyser at the group home, and the two saw each other almost every day for the past month. Mecca told the station Geyser wanted to leave the group home because their visitation time was going to be taken away, and the decision to leave happened quickly. Police body camera video obtained by CNN shows Geyser telling officers Mecca had no prior knowledge of her plan to escape. Leslie Bowes, the district attorney for Waukesha County, said Monday her office will not get involved again in this case until a motion to revoke for conditional release is filed, and Dane County law enforcement is investigating Geyser for leaving her placement. Tuesday, November 25th, at the hearing in Cook County, Illinois, Geyser waived extradition and was set to be sent back to Wisconsin. She faces no charges in Illinois. She entered the Chicago courtroom with her head down, wearing a blue shirt. The hearing lasted only a few minutes. The judge set the bond at no bail at the request of Waukesha County. Geyser was appointed a public defender who briefly conferred with her before the judge explained the extradition rules. By waiving the extradition hearings, Ms. Geyser has sped up the process of returning to Waukesha County to face the consequences of violating her conditional release, Bowes said in a statement. Our office remains committed to protecting the community, ensuring this case moves forward without delay. Her alleged actions this past weekend only reinforce our position that a conditional release is not appropriate at this time. Custody of Geyser falls under the Wisconsin Department of Health Services because she was found not guilty due to mental disease or defect. The health department filed a petition Tuesday to revoke Geyser's conditional release, and the Wisconsin Department of Corrections requested a hearing within 30 days, according to Mintz. The court and both parties were working to schedule the hearing, she said. If a petition to revoke her conditional release is granted, Geyser would return to institutional care in a hospital facility, which is much more secure than the group home, according to the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office. Wednesday, November 26th. Back in custody, Geyser was transported from Cook County, Illinois to the Waukesha County, Wisconsin jail, her attorney, Anthony Cotton, told CNN. A Waukesha spokesperson said the sheriff's office confirmed Geyser was brought to the jail shortly after 4 p.m. And then that is November 26th. As of today, she's no longer in the Waukesha County jail. She's no longer in their custody. But it does not tell the location of where she's at. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. And like I said, it got brought back up in the news. I'll be honest, I'd forgotten about the story. I mean, I would have barely remembered it if somebody had said Slenderman or brought it up to me. Said, do you know anything about what you know about the Slenderman? In the words of Sean Patrick. So that is where we are currently at with those. So what you're going to hear now is the original recording we did in 2020 about the Slender Man. Some of the background, some of the cultural relevance, I guess, and other things. And then we'll close it out like we always do at the end of it. But I hope you enjoy this. I hope you find it informative. Yeah. So, let's get to it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Sean Patrick.
And I'm Ryan.
And we don't talk politics.
Welcome to Hollywood. What's your dream? Welcome to Hollywood. When I was a kid, we had to watch that stupid show constantly. It was my dad's fiance's favorite movie. Oh, well, good morning and happy Monday, Aaron Forney.
Don't tell you the day. You're gonna let them know we're off our schedule. We're supposed to record on Saturdays.
Well, I guess
Sunday.
It's still gonna come out
2 days
at the
late.
proper time.
We're really off our game this week.
Proper ting.
So, we're gonna talk about things.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a really cool thing, actually. So, Aaron talked to me about a week and a half ago now. Like just a little bit after we released the inaugural podcast. He's like, hey, what you know about Slenderman? I was like, well, I know all sorts of stuff. And you didn't know anything about Slenderman. Now you're more of an expert than I am, to be honest with you.
I knew small, certain details of Slenderman. Not much. Not very much at all.
For the uninitiated, who what describes Slenderman?
All right.
What does he look like?
Slenderman is an entity.
He is the entity.
What they describe him as, what they say he looks like, he's about 7 or 8 feet tall. He has elongated arms, which usually hang down to about his knees. He's got long, bony fingers. Occasionally there's depictions of him with tendrils that come out of his back.
And he's wearing a black suit, white shirt and black tie, very like a G-Man look.
Mm-hmm.
He's extraordinarily Lovecraftian.
Yeah. Think Men in Black or Agent Smith, The Matrix, or any of the agents for that matter. But, yeah, and he's super tall, super skinny. One might even say slender. He has an all-white head and a face void of any distinguishing facial features.
He's genuinely terrifying. I remember the first time I heard of Slenderman was watching just regular YouTube videos. Like, I have a group of friends who are into just jumping online and looking at weird crap. And they got me into this series of like 55-minute episodes of this group of kids having to like combat, like Slenderman showing up and having to combat him and stuff. I was like, wow, this is a really cool concept. And then I did some digging as well, and found out that he was created online. He was like he's like the what I would think would be the first internet created villain / monster thing, like like Loch Ness, that sort of thing. Aaron did a bunch of research into like basically the origin. So Slenderman first showed up in 2009. So he's been around for an extraordinarily long period of time. And the internet was still fairly new in '09 as far as I'm considering it. In something called the Something Awful contest, where somebody needed to take a normal picture and make it paranormal. So this guy whose pen name was Victor Surge came up with this with Slenderman. He said he was inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, because that's like almost like the tendrils that come out of the guy's back on command. They're very Cthulhu-esque, genuinely terrifying. And there's a lot of mist, and people encounter him in the woods. Like, if you just go on YouTube and you just type in Slenderman, you will find a billion zillion different videos of all different makes and qualities and sort of things. You'll even find an interesting documentary or two that we'll be talking about later. They started in creepypasta, and that was something that Aaron had mentioned before. That I'd heard of copypasta and creepypasta before, but I didn't know what it meant. It's just a really bad dish. But sis, until Aaron actually said something here. So, what exactly is copypasta for you?
Well, according to Urban Dictionary, it's essentially internet horror stories or a myth passed around other sites to frighten readers and viewers. The word creepypasta comes from the term copypasta. It's an internet slang term for a block of text that gets copied and pasted from website to website. Creepypastas are supplemented with pictures, audio, or video footage related to the story, typically with gory, distorted, or otherwise shocking content. So basically it's your...
Yeah, so it's like just really messed up stuff that people just copy and paste onto
Right, it's
Reddit.
Basically most of your internet horror can be defined as creepypasta. But yeah, it's as a story that grows online. It gains its notoriety online. People copy it, paste it, share it. And Slenderman is one of those things. He just started out as something that was, like Sean Patrick was saying, was a part of a contest. And Eric Knudsen, Victor Surge, edited this photo. There's 2 photos, and you'll see this picture of these kids running, and he's just there in the background, just kind of creepily hanging out there. But he had no backstory. There was just the pictures that were edited, and kind of a bunch of creepypasta was made off of those pictures. Which that's how the story of Slenderman came about and grew.
And grew and grew and grew and grew, and it kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. For the sake of the podcast, all feelings aside about this Slenderman character, we're going to talk about him as if he were real, because there's a lot of people out there that actually believe in Slenderman. What was the name of that documentary that you had me watch?
Beware the Slenderman.
Beware the Slenderman. That messed me up. I remember seeing what happened on television, but I mean, essentially 2 girls, they were both 12, had a friend over for like 12 or 13, and they ended up taking the girl out to the woods and like almost nearly killing her. Like they stabbed her like 19 times. And when they were finally found, they admitted that they did it basically as a sacrifice to Slenderman, because they wanted to be his friend, I suppose. What was it? They wanted to be his proxy. So,
proxy.
Can you talk more about, like, because like I said, you're 10 times more educated on this subject matter than I am, but can you talk about like the mythos that has been, and I think like a lot of people know who Slenderman is, but I don't think people know the amount of mythology that has been created behind this idea and how serious people actually take it.
Right. Like it's like Sean Patrick was saying about having proxies. The girls were hoping to become proxies or servants of Slenderman, which is a thing.
Just
They
bonkers.
believed once they became proxies or servants, they would be able to live in Slender Mansion, the Slenderman's mansion, which was supposedly in the middle of
A national park.
Nicollet National Park in Wisconsin. It's a 1.5 acre national park. And after they did the stabbing, that's where they were planning on heading. They started walking, and that's when they got picked up by the police or whatever. But as far as he's just been, like I said, it's just been grown off creepypasta and stories that have evolved from it. Originally, he was portrayed as violent. He would abduct children and presumably kill them. Later, he gained a more passive-aggressive demeanor. Instead of killing his victims, he would mentally abuse his victims and drive them to madness, which you'll see in if you look into the Slenderman video games or movies or anything. It's more the madness aspect of him than the killing and the violent acts.
When I came across him, it was the madness thing. He was driving one particular young man and a group of friends insane, by constantly showing up and interfering in this kid's life, essentially.
Right. It's just, and I mean that's kind of what happened to those girls a little bit. Mind you, one of them did have schizophrenia, and that was part of what led her to believe that he was real, and we'll get into that later, because there's another section about how he's been brought into existence, how some people believe he's been brought into existence. But, so there's a lot of YouTube videos, as Sean Patrick mentioned, and most of them, and included in the footage shown in Beware the Slenderman. By the way, Beware the Slenderman it's an HBO documentary that was about the two girls that tried to kill the classmate. But it also goes in depth into who Slenderman is, where he originated from, and everything. But unlike YouTube, it'll show all the videos they have. It's usually there's an electronic disturbance before you see him. There's and a lot of times it's when people are filming themselves or
walking around in the woods, and then you'll see it's the classic something scary is about to happen now, because you'll see the video screen stutter, and then
a little static and a little stutter.
Shows up way far in the distance behind a tree or something, or he turns the camera and there he is.
Right.
But he legitimately, they portray Slenderman in everything. He is in I did a little bit of research on him showing up in pop culture and stuff. He shows up in cartoons all the time. Illustrators put him into cartoons. He showed up in there's a kid show, I believe it's on Cartoon Network, called Gumball. Just very whimsical kid show. But there's one particular episode where the dad is riding his bicycle past a clothing store, and there are these plain mannequins in the clothing store, and there are two Slendermen on display, and then he drives rides his bike past them, and they change into a normal mannequin, and it's very deliberate that it's there, and if you didn't know about it, it's just super creepy that so many people have watched it. It's a very, very popular show and a very popular episode, and it's there. One other incident that really I thought was kind of funny and kind of leads to how Slenderman, kind of the effect that we'll talk about in a little bit, happened in a My Little Pony episode where basically Slenderman showed up in a My Little Pony version of Slenderman, was in a My Little Pony episode recently, just a couple years ago, I guess. And the the illustrator slipped him in. Nobody noticed him at first. Then people started noticing him. The illustrator had no authorization to do that and ended up losing his job over putting Slenderman into an episode of My Little Pony. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Him itself is all over the place. But having something that started as just a regular photo and kind of grow legs and like really take off on its own merit of being a terrifying thing was pretty startling. But then doing it to the point of having people take it extremely seriously, like there is a dogma to this fellow now, and that's just wild that people are actually really digging it to the point that they're doing things about it. And there's entire groups out there that are devoted to this guy, to a borderline cult ideal, which is pretty crazy.
So the real reason I wanted to do this episode in particular is because it was something that I'm afraid of, we'll say. I don't know if I'm really afraid of it, but
no,
I mean,
we were.
There's that minor fear in the back of your head. And it was one of those things I'd never really looked into. As with most things that make me afraid, it's lack of knowledge. It's lack of understanding. So looking into it more, it's definitely put my mind at ease. And that's part of it. There isn't really a backstory, which is what makes him scary. All these stories are made up to feed off your fears. It's the unknown and the ability to feed your own fears because you don't know what his story is. And he's this entity, and you see it, and there's pictures of him, whatever, but it's whatever you're afraid of, that's what he can be. Which I think is part of what the madness aspect of it comes into it, just tormenting people with the madness and everything. And like I said, it's something for me, when it comes to scary movies, I'm not afraid of little children, old people, dolls. I'm more afraid of things that aren't actually, I don't know, I don't know how to say not real. I don't know.
Would you say that when it comes to watching like a scary movie, you can compartmentalize it because it's an hour and a half long? When you're done, and you can go.
Oh no! I
sleep
with that. I just have the light on for another week. Sleep with the light on for a week if I watch a scary movie that actually affects me. I can't fall asleep with the lights. I can't go to bed in the dark.
You sir are.
I don't watch scary movies. Let's put it that way. I didn't really grow up getting desensitized because I didn't watch scary movies growing up. I know a lot of my friends can watch scary movies and be fine. I remember me and another friend of mine went and saw Scary Movies to Tell in the Dark at the theater, and it was only two of us in there, and we talked through the whole thing. But there were still a couple of things that were enough to bother me that I had to sleep with the light on. I'm a giant scaredy cat.
So why do you think, what's the difference between that and your fear of the Slenderman? Why do you think he made that this idea made you more fearful than watching,
just because I didn't know anything about him. I mean, if you just see pictures of him, it's creepy.
Yeah,
it's scary.
It's weird, but I totally get that.
He's meant to be a weird anomaly that is in existence, and it's just it's like I said, it's the unknown. I don't know. I didn't know much about him before this, so it was that those underlying fears were there because I didn't have a backstory that went along with it. And that was the thing. Like I would see a picture, I'd like, no, not gonna look into that. I'm good enough without knowing what's going on there. But in reality, by having just the images in my head and having no background knowledge of the image, it was like, and it wasn't really super scared thing. It was more just like I said, it was just that underlying thought in the back of the head, or possibly seen him, because I like right outside my window. I leave my window open at night, and there's a tree line right outside my window. And I couldn't look out my window the last couple nights.
And that gives me the heebie. Like, I can really empathize with, like, because of the tendrils and the branches, and I can definitely appreciate that 100%. Because last night, talking about fear of the unknown. Last night, it's maybe 2 a.m. I'm just quietly watching just Twitch on my television in the living room here. My bedroom door is shut. I keep the window open in my bedroom, and we live on the first floor of an apartment complex. I keep the bedroom window open when I'm home, just to pull fresh air through or whatever. Titus, the cat, my best friend, goes and he's looking out the sliding glass door between a couple of the blinds, and he's looking to the right and really like looking intently at something. And on the right is where my bedroom window is. So I'm freaking, like, I'm sitting there and watching, like, what's he looking at? And then I put two and two together, like, wait, my bedroom's over there. We're on the first floor next to a pretty busy street. I don't know about this. This is kind of freaky. And I just, nutted up, for lack of better terms, and went to my bedroom. Got the gumption to open my door, checked just a dark bedroom with nothing in it. Went to my walk-in closet. I was too scared to open my walk-in closet all the way, so I looked through the hinge, that little space of where the hinges are, to see if there's anyone behind the door. There's nobody there. Like, all right, I'm fine. I'm just an idiot, and walked back in and sat down. But even like that wasn't the end of it. I still,
and then you were murdered in your chair.
I was still a little freaked out. And when I did go to bed, I still went back and double checked everything again. But then I went to bed and slept for 6 hours, with an open window, and didn't think anything of it. So. Yeah, because you never know, right? Because you never the fear of the unknown. Kind of like if you're like scared of deep water.
I'm not afraid of deep water. I'm afraid of what's in the water.
Yes, because you don't know what's in there.
Exactly. What is it? Like 8% of the oceans has been explored.
Genuinely terrifying stuff. And if
City of Atlantis, and another civilization down there, probably.
I hope so.
8% of the ocean. One day they're going to take over. It's probably the Nazis in the middle of the earth that are
left the moon,
just waiting to restart.
Brosidon resides, Lord of the Broshin.
But, okay. The attack of Brosidon. Alright. So,
go ahead.
What? Go ahead. No, I was just thinking what we should.
Well, I want to talk about the Tupla effect. Is it Tupla or Tupla?
Let's go into the other stories.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So that happened with the two girls stabbing their
By the way,
friend
the girl they stabbed
classmate.
Lived. She's okay.
She's
she
okay.
Nearly died. The other two girls are.
I thought it was like one was doing 40 years and one was doing 20 years. Because I think only one of the girls actually stabbed her. The other one was just a witness. And I think the one that was the witness was actually the one that had schizophrenia, whose dad also had schizophrenia, but they never really talked about it with their daughter before because they hadn't really seen any signs that it was affecting her. So yeah, that was in 2014. And also in 2014, apparently young teenage girls were definitely into the Slenderman story. It was only 5 years after Slenderman had come into creation when the stabbings happened. And then also the same year, 2014, there was a 13-year-old girl in Cincinnati, Ohio, who wore a white mask, tried to stab her mother in the kitchen. The mother survived. She was stabbed, but the girl was also obsessed with Slenderman. She wrote Slenderman fan fiction and even created a whole world for Slenderman in Minecraft, where they showed.
I remember reading about that. I thought that was pretty bonkers. Well, and there's in Minecraft you can go to the Nether, so Minecraft is a video game. You can go to the Nether, which is like another world in Minecraft,
Right.
And there are Slenderman-esque creatures in the Nether. There are these tall, thin, long arms and leg, all black creatures with white eyes that you have to fight, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Some people said they thought those creatures were based off the Slenderman.
Mm-hmm.
And also, a 14-year-old girl in Port Richey, Florida, sets a house on fire by soaking a towel in bleach and rum. She started by lighting the garage on fire and ended up spreading to the house. Again, she claimed it was because Slenderman told her to. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think at like 13 or 14 what I was into. Like,
Definitely, yeah. I thought the same thing. At 13 or 14, I was into just, I don't know, what you would classically consider normal things, right? Sports, video games, friendship,
music,
riding my bike. I grew up at 14, I was living in Sheraton, Iowa, which is a really small town, and not a care in the world. Like, I worked as a farmhand on a hog lot and spent my meager income on Snickers bars and soda and parts for my bike and stuff like that, or a BB gun, something cool. But never anything like this. But again, also, I mean, that would have been in like the mid-90s. That would have been like 97, 98 when I was 13, 14.
When it started? Or what are you talking about?
Like when I was 13 or 14, I was in the mid-90s. Compared to these kids being 13 or 14 now, it's just such a big difference as to how they grow up and the media that they consume.
Well, I mean, and it's just... from what I've noticed in the stories about them, it was they had free reign of the internet, which, I mean, like, I think they had just one of the two girls had gotten an iPad, and that's where she really started digging into creepypasta and Slenderman's stories and stuff. And me, I mean, like, I mean, this is still relatively young in the internet, and I remember creepypasta was a big part of that. It was just people being able to people who weren't famous being able to like publish stories and stuff. They put the story out there and anybody could read it. So you had all these stories and all these connections that people were just like, especially young kids, were getting into and reading. Just like the mom said, it's like, who doesn't like horror at that age? And it's just like, she's like, I grew up with it and turned out okay, but. And that was the thing, like, it's just, I mean, it's just however you let it affect your mind, how separating reality from fiction. Like, I don't struggle with it, but I mean, I think I allow fiction to influence my mind more than it should, if that makes sense. But yeah, just like allowing these things that I know they're not real, but it's still something, a certain part of my brain tells me, well, maybe it could be real. I don't know. These are the things that.
That's kind of but for a lot, I know that's kind of the fun of it. Like I grew up in a fundamental Christian background, and am still, a Christ follower, but am not nearly as fundamental as my mother was. But growing up with that background, getting into things like exorcisms or demonology and angels, and like looking up things having to do with the supernatural, the religious part of the supernatural stuff, always really got my gourd. Like that was the thing. You could see me, like, while kids would spend hours looking at Slenderman stuff, I would spend hours reading about demonology and not thinking, like, wanting them to be real or anything like that, but then definitely affecting my reality by, spending all this time reading these things and learning new things and stuff. It really freaks you out sometimes.
Right. Read the book of Revelation. See how that affects you as a kid.
That book of Revelation, well, see, and that was another thing. When I was 13 or 14, that's what I was doing. I was reading the Book of Revelation 1,800 times in a row. Like, I would finish it, and that was the coolest scary movie I ever read. And, like, finishing that thing and going back and reading it all over again, and then all the associated books that I could find about it and stuff. Stuff was cray-cray.
Right. And for anyone who doesn't know, I grew up, I still am a pastor's son, and I definitely had, I was definitely rooted in the Bible and everything else, and it's just like, if you want to talk a horror story, if you want to talk scary, read the Book of Revelation. That's gonna, I don't know, like, and watching,
read it literally.
What were the,
like, go through and read it literally.
They had, yeah, but it's and you go back and forth with people saying, no, this is literally how it's going to happen. This is just a representation of something. This beast represents these certain countries, or this and this and this. And it's just like, as a kid growing up reading this is real. This is everything, like everything in here. This is the real representation of what it is. And then you've got movies like Thief in the Night, which was one that was made in the 70s. And it's just these that are going through the whole tribulation and everything, and it's just like, I think for me, part of my fears came from like having me believe that was completely real. Like, it wasn't symbolism. It was like, this is what it is, this is what it is. And I have a history with being afraid.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I remember growing up, I was, and we'll talk about when I was 16, 17 years old in a whole other time.
That's a whole episode.
We can talk about that a whole other, that's child. But yeah, like, sometimes you take that stuff very, very literally. When everyone around you takes it literally, you were forced to take it literally.
Right.
And if you don't, they make sure you take it literally, and they don't stop until you agree. And it can be really, 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 really terrifying sometimes. Well, Aaron, we've reached our halfway point, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back, Aaron.
I mean, we never really left. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought about taking a bathroom break, but it's like, no, I'm in this now. I've got the headphones on.
Oh.
We're all mic'd up. Let's just keep this rolling.
So let's talk about the effect.
The Tulpa effect.
The effect.
So the Tulpa effect is something I came across in a bunch of YouTube videos, actually, where a lot of people believe that Slenderman has been brought into actual existence, even though he was a made-up, non-existent character or creature. He's been brought into existence using the Tulpa effect. So
now he's basically been conjured.
You could exactly.
Say. So this effect it's a concept. It's based in, from when I read, Buddhism, mysticism, generally speaking, paranormal, and it's actually creating imaginary, quote unquote, entities by, spiritual. Would you say just by meditation and just like severely thinking about them, right, Aaron?
It's well, I mean, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of spiritual or mental powers.
So they do like mantras and they talk to it.
In Buddhism,
they listen
that's
to
what
it
until
eventually it pops up.
Tibetan Buddhism, that's what they use meditation to bring it about. There's other ways. There's like I said, spiritual and mental powers. Some people used magic to bring out these creatures. Or
it's like creating your own imaginary friend.
It is, in a way. Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a friend. It's just an entity. You create this, you bring this entity into existence.
That's even scarier. Yeah, because they don't have to be your friend. It could just be something has been made. Did you know when I was a little kid, I had an imaginary friend?
There's not a doubt in my mind.
Seriously.
I know. I'm serious as well. I have no doubt that you had an imaginary friend.
I Yeah, we grew up on a farm, and when we were on the farm, I don't remember having an imaginary friend. Until one day on Facebook, my brothers reminded me of it. But when I was a kid, we grew up on a farm that used to be a chinchilla farm, and genuinely scary and horrifying place. The basement was gross and black and dank, and had stacks and stacks and stacks of chinchilla cages that were empty. The man that lived there before us had committed suicide, and we were able to rent the house very, very cheap. And while living there, I guess had an imaginary friend, and it was super creepy. And yeah, but so I can I don't have any personal stories about having an imaginary friend, how it came to be, what he apparently was like, what his name was, anything like that. But he ain't around anymore. But yeah, super. So yeah, hearing about this effect really freaked me out.
Right. So what I gathered from deep research on Wikipedia, it was adapted by 20th century Theosophists from Tibetan Sprolpa, which means emanciation or manifestation. Modern practitioners use the term to refer to a type of willed imaginary friend, which practitioners consider to be sentient and relatively autonomous. Spiritualist Alexandra David Neal claimed to have observed these mystical practices in 20th century Tibet. She described tulpas as magic formations generated by a powerful concentration of thought. David Neal believes that tulpas could develop a mind of its own. Once the tulpa is endowed with enough vitality to be capable of playing the part of a real being, it tends to free itself from its maker's control. This, say Tibetan occultist, happens nearly mechanically, just as the child, when his body is completed and able to live apart, leaves its mother's womb. She claimed to have created such a tulpa in the image of a jolly friar tuck-like monk, which later developed a life of its own and had to be destroyed. David Neal raised the possibility that her experience was illusionary. I may have created my own hallucination, though she claimed that others could see the thought forms that she had created. Tulpas in modern... So a thought form is another term for a tulpa. And thought form, I think that's more the more modern, what they call it. What do you call it, like in like Skyrim, when you conjure a wolf to follow you or whatever?
Conjuration.
What are they called?
It's called
but
conjure.
what are they called? There's a name for them. A friendly or a familiar? No, like
Atronach?
a familiar. You can conjure familiar. You can conjure an Atronach too, but like that's more what I like. What makes me think of when I read stuff like this, like conjuring.
I immediately went to Skyrim as well.
I think that's where they come in with the thought of Slenderman being a tulpa, is something people have thought about him enough and used enough mental powers to bring him into existence. And then on his own, he evolved to what he needed to be, and then now has his own ability to do whatever he wants. Which is, I mean, that's one line of thought.
Yeah, that's. I mean, like, obviously a very extreme line of thinking that they thought this thing into actual reality. But when you think of some of the other things out there in the world that we believe and think of, it doesn't make it as far-fetched as you would imagine. We got a lot of energy in us, so like if you want to take a supernatural thought process on that, it's pretty jarring, to say the least. But they call the people that do this, they call them tuplemancers, or that's what they call themselves. And there are entire websites devoted. I did a little bit of a deep dive into these places where there's people just working on magic, for lack of a better term, in the attempts to bringing entities into existence and testing it and trying it out. It boggles me that somebody would actually want to actually try, because the people that believe this, like, they believe it wholeheartedly and understand that if they conjure somebody, it stays with them forever. And there's a lot of religious implications when it comes to this as well. In Christianity, there are familiar spirits that are devils that stay with you, and there's a lot of things in the Bible and in other religious texts about, everybody's heard the term "we are legion" when Christ cast a bunch of demons out of a man into a pack of pigs, and then the pack of pigs jumped off the edge of a cliff. And just, so I mean, there's a lot of parallels to this in pop culture and in just general beliefs forever, I guess you could say. Aaron, you ever seen the television show Happy?
Yeah.
There, Tupla.
Yeah, it's a imaginary friend.
It's an imaginary friend who then
Transfer.
Who is imaginary for Happy's imaginary friend for a little girl, who then gets in trouble. So the imaginary friend finds her dad, and so now they share an imaginary friend, and hilarity and extreme violence.
It's just he's a wacky unicorn. That's what he is.
He's a wacky unicorn. What a wacky guy!
He's the kind of Tupla you want to have.
Yeah.
I mean, like, some people just want a friend,
Some people just want.
So they just they Tupla up. Or Tulpa. Oh, I keep saying Tupla. Tulpa up.
They belong to primarily urban, middle class, Euro-American adolescents, young adult demographics. They cite we quote, cite loneliness and social anxiety for an incentive to pick up the practice. 93.7% of respondents expressed that their involvement with the creation of Tuplas made their condition better. So they do this out of...
That's the My Little Pony section of it.
Huh?
That's just the My Little Pony section of it. There's still actual, like, Tibetan Buddhism that use tulpas. It's that those facts are about a small group of My Little Pony fan group from Reddit that are tulpamancers.
Freaking bronies. Bunch of creeps.
So there's this group that offers support for other tulpamancers, and it was based off of My Little Pony fans that were one to bring characters into reality. So they tulpamanced, and that's what he was, the Euro-American adolescent young adult demographic, middle class. And it's for the majority of them, just made them feel better. I mean, and if you're not hurting anybody,
appreciate wanting to feel better, like, and wanting to be less lonely.
Right? You're not hurting anybody. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, you do you, boo boo.
And I was doing some so in essence, with this thought process, by making this podcast, we are making the Slenderman more real. If we go with the tulpa effect. But I also, you're in luck, I also did some research on how to kill a tulpa.
Oh, yeah.
Which, overall, the majority didn't really give examples how to kill a tulpa.
Probably because they want to keep their tulpas that they spend all this time making.
There was a ton of them. That was the thing. Like, the Reddits I was going through was people asking, how do I kill my tulpa?
Jesus.
Because they, well, it was...
I made a mistake.
I made a terrible, terrible mistake. And
I tricked my brain into making sure something is real. How do I fix that?
Typical American. How do I fix it? Let's kill it. So, most of them, it was... most of the articles said the best way to get rid of a tulpa was to just ignore it. And eventually it'll leave on its own.
Kind of like friendship.
I guess so. I don't know. I try to ignore my friends and they keep calling me back. Thank you, isolation. So yeah, there was a couple things. One was, and this was about just me researching through like 5 or 6 different Reddit posts on how to kill it. It was ignore it. B, you could kill it. You could use acid. You could stab it. And this is once it's taken on its own like human, its own physical form. And you can burn it, then bury it, and throw a portion of the dirt into space.
How do you throw... Aaron, I have a question.
Ask the Reddit guy. That was his answer how to do it.
I love that.
All those were by him. He tried acid, it returned. He stabbed it, it returned. And then he burned it, buried it, and threw a chunk of the dirt into space.
How do you
I want you to know everything you read on the internet is true. Just before we go any further, if you need information, go to the internet.
That's the best part
everything
of this,
you will
right?
find there
because this
true.
Is created in its modern form, was created by the internet. And so that's where you have to go. You have to go to Reddit because
you have to go to
Reddit
the source.
Just so happens to be the number one resource on this effect.
Exactly.
It's
bonkers. You don't go into ancient texts or anything. Don't
read there's a Dead Sea
don't read the
Scroll
Tibetan Book of the Dead or anything.
Yeah.
Go to Reddit.
There's no Necronomicon referring to how to get rid of a pony.
And that was and C, the third option was the thought form itself would post on Reddit explaining that it couldn't be killed. So, I mean, they've gained awareness. They know how to use the internet. So,
yeah, they made a Gmail account.
I think your best idea is going to be not to form one.
Or maybe it's just a kid pretending to be his Tupla.
No, that's not the case.
That
Again, everything on the internet is real.
Yeah, people don't lie.
Tulpas don't lie.
The concept of people lying has always been a really foreign concept for me. Like when I watch like Live PD or like Cops or something, and the guy gets pulled over, and he's like, "No, it's my friend's car. Just let me borrow it." Oh, that's his weed in the glove box. It's not my weed. I'm always like, I always take the side of the criminal. Like, he's got an honest face. Like, I mean, that's a really good excuse. People borrow friends' cars all the time. He said it wasn't his weed. That makes I hook, line, and sinker. I always believe the criminal every single time.
I'm gonna be honest. Every time I was asked if it was my weed, and I said it was somebody else's, it was somebody else's.
God bless you, Aaron.
I don't.
So I think that kind of tears it for the Slender and the Tupla effect. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah. If you're afraid of something, look into it.
Yeah.
Unless it's sharks. Because if you're afraid of sharks, and then you just try and watch everything on Shark Week, it's just going to make you more afraid of sharks.
Yeah, how'd that go for you, Forney?
Not well. We had it on at the bar the entire week, and I didn't when it was Shark Week, and it didn't make me any less afraid of sharks.
Did you sleep with the light on?
No, I don't sleep with the light on. I don't close my eyes in the shower with sharks.
Got it. Okay.
Different, because you get that feeling of the water just rushing over, and you're surrounded by water, and you're in a small container, and then the shark just comes out of the deep blue sea at you, and can't stop that.
We really shouldn't talk about this on the podcast because people are going to abuse you.
I don't care. I mean, it's,
real friends don't.
At least I know they're real.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know they actually do attack, and people do die from shark attacks.
Aaron doesn't even. There's certain video games Aaron refuses to play because there's too much water in it.
It's true. I couldn't finish some missions on. What was it? Far Cry 4, because you had to go into the water, and there are very angry piranhas in the water.
It's true.
If you want more info on Slenderman and the case of the 2 girls in Wisconsin, be sure to check out Beware the Slenderman, the HBO documentary, which is where we got a lot of our information from on this. It was mainly that, some YouTube videos, and Wikipedia. But yeah, the Beware the Slenderman is available on YouTube to watch for free. You can rent it on Amazon or something, where it's where I first looked. But if you go to YouTube, it's on there for free. So Beware the Slenderman. All right. Let's give a little. Anything else you got on the slim, the skinny man?
Skinny fella. No, not really. No. He's freaky. If I hope this was, I hope this was entertaining for you guys to listen to. Our goal with this podcast is to kind of gain fresh perspective from a technological point of view and from an internet age point of view. And yeah, super neato.
Educational and informational. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, do all the things you can on social media. Just follow me wherever. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I am not on Twitter. I am on YouTube and anywhere fine podcasts are streamed. So, as always, keep an eye to the sky and just remember that mental health issues are a real thing. There are people struggling with it all over the world. It is something, when not properly dealt with, can lead to situations like this happening. So just make yourself available for friends and family if you can. If you have that space to do that, allow yourself to do that. I'd also just recommend educating yourself, making yourself aware of local resources that are available. A lot of times they are, unfortunately not always, state-funded or city-funded. And there are a lot of nonprofits out there that want to help people, that they have a heart for it, and that is their whole purpose, and they want to make themselves available. That's why they're there. So please just kind of be available for your friends, your family, or anybody else you see struggling. Interacting with somebody in the middle of a mental health crisis can be scary. If you feel comfortable doing it, do it. If you don't call somebody that can help. I know a lot of cities offer, if you ask for somebody to come that's equipped to help in a mental health crisis, a lot more cities are giving funding to having people that will come out with the police. Don't get me wrong, I don't want the police to show up if they don't have to. I would rather just have, like in Portland, we had Portland Street Response, which was a great city funded, I believe it was city or county funded group of mental health workers that would come out to deal with mental health situations that were happening, as opposed to having the police come when there's a lot of people that are dealing with mental health issues that have issues with police, whether it be from past experiences or just issues with people in authority. And I wish more cities were putting more funding towards the mental health and alternatives to police. Having people that are more properly equipped, more properly trained on how to deal with mental health crisis. Showing up with a gun usually seems to escalate the situation as opposed to de-escalate it. Just the uniforms and everything else, it's a whole lot. I have worked in multiple fields where people have their feelings on the police, and that is not who they're wanting to call in a crisis. Please try and educate yourself on your local resources. So if someone you know actually does come to you and ask for help, which a lot of times it won't happen, but in those rare situations where people want the help and they're asking for help, hopefully you're able to direct them to the right services. But that is all I've got. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.